a chart that shows LSU is returning so much production to next year's team, okay? And on top of that, LSU is a team that lost a lot of players, okay? So what does this chart mean? It's simple. Even though LSU lost Will Campbell, and they lost Emory Jones, and they lost Garrett Dellinger, and, of course, Miles Frazier up front, and on top of that, they lost Mason Taylor, they are still one of the best college football teams when it comes to returning offense production. Now, why is that the case? Well, according to this chart from Colin Wilson of the Action Network, it is true that LSU lost all those players, but what he's doing is factoring in the transfer portal snaps coming in for LSU. So Barian Brown, a semi-productive player at Kentucky. Nick Anderson obviously wasn't productive last year, but he's been productive in the past. You also bring in the top 50 PFF rated offensive guard, Josh Thompson. And then on top of that, you also bring back a center in Braylon Moore, who has 2 years of starters experience, not only at left guard, but at center as well. So according to Colin Wilson, even though LSU lost all that good production, this doesn't include Kyron Lacey and, of course, CJ Daniels, they still do return a lot. Obviously, Garrett Nussmeier, obviously Aaron Anderson, obviously all these other players. But what's very interesting is the defensive returning production. LSU does lose Savion Jones. They do lose Braden Swinson, both of which played over 70% of the snaps at the edge positions of Blake Baker's defense. But guess what? You bring in 3 edge players who all played a lot, right? Jamari Butler, Patrick Payton, and, of course, Florida's own Jack Pyburn. So you lose a lot of guys like Sage Ryan, Major Burns, but Mansour Delane and Tamarcus Cooley come in. So this chart shows that LSU, when it comes to college production, is returning a lot. It doesn't make sense that they're returning a lot, but they are returning a lot per Colin Wilson's data. Now, what does that mean exactly? Well, it's simple. LSU, according to Colin Wilson, should be a team that should be in the mix for the college football playoffs next season. Now, it's interesting because you see all these national college football personalities saying that LSU will make the playoff. There are quite a few national personalities that have LSU in their initial early college football playoff rankings going into next season. Bud Elliott, who I think is the sharpest national guy, has LSU there. J.D. Pickle, who I think is the exact opposite of that, he also has LSU in there. So, look, I'm really excited about that. But I would also caution you because even though there is a lot of production returning on the defensive side of the football, and then you add on the transfer portal guys coming in, and then on the offensive side of the ball, you lose a lot of guys that played over 800 snaps. Mason Taylor, who's going to step in that all-time tight end role. I think it's going to be a collaborative effort there. LSU looks to be a little bit better in the eyes of my favorite college football betting analyst, Mr. Colin Wilson. So, as we always do, we welcome in LA Mom, Black Ice, Tyler, Prescia. Obviously, John Sibley was in the house for the LSU-Texas game. Where was the invite? I would have made the drive. Slayman Sammy 99. It's funny. He actually did invite me. BT, good to see you. Now, obviously, for those that live up north, and I say those that live up north, it's actually throughout the South. A lot of ice throughout the area. Not quite in Louisiana. Please be safe on those roads. I was actually scheduled to, and I was going to have to move the live stream around. I was actually scheduled to go do some comedy tonight. I've not done comedy in years. And, obviously with the weather being what it is now, I decided to not make the drive because comedy shows, I do not miss the drive backs late at night, 4 or 5 hour drives. It's crazy. Now, I want to talk about Harold Perkins. So there was a report today from Julie Bodwin of On3, and she said that Blake Baker said in a coach's clinic that Harold Perkins will play the star position. All right. Am I excited about that? Well, one thing that's very important when discussing Harold Perkins is he a guy that should be an every down player to begin with? I want you to really think about that, okay? We are 2 years removed from what was the best true freshman defensive season maybe ever at LSU. Now, there's quite a few that are up there. Obviously, Tyrann Mathieu is definitely in that mix in recent memory. And then, of course, Derek Stingley, I think a lot of you would have him number one because he was a part of a national championship team. Patrick Peterson was elite from day one as well. Look, there are so many that you could point to, but Harold Perkins is definitely there. The problem is, once again, we're 2 years removed from that. So on Patreon tomorrow, I did open up our forum. Sign up today, patreon.com/LSU football, because at the end of next month, we are giving away one of my favorite items in my collection, the Jamar Chase autograph card. These go for well over $200 on the regular. So it'll just go to a random patron. And guess what? If you sign up your first month, I send you a Joe Burrow card in the mail for free. And like we always do, if you sign up during the live streams while I am live, I send you your first month free. So you could sign up now and basically get into the contest for free, and you're getting a Joe Burrow card. So that is for new patrons. We are dropping just a brief Harold Perkins podcast in the morning. I'll be doing another film study on Perk later on in the off season. Okay. Now, one thing I'll say about Harold Perkins is obviously he creates gravity defensively. Teams do have to account for his playmaking ability. All right. It is definitely on the highest order of his ability to knife in, his ball skills, his instincts are truly one of one, right? They're up there with some of the LSU greats when it comes to making explosive, productive plays defensively. And honestly, that mentality fits in really, really, really well with Blake Baker, because Blake Baker's defense is all predicated on that very thing. He is a havoc-based defensive coordinator. He likes his guys getting into the backfield and making plays, all right? I've said it plenty of times. I'm a big Blake Baker guy. But, I think at times we got ourselves carried away with that. And we got ourselves out of gaps, and it opened ourselves up for huge, and I mean huge, lanes in the running game. So I will tell you, as much as we love the allure of Harold Perkins, the star role is a very complicated role, right? So that is a basically hybrid nickel linebacker, all right? So last year, towards the end of the season, we took Major Burns out of that role, and we put a true freshman in Devon Keys in that role. And obviously he had a pick six. It was a pretty basic pick six. He also dropped a big INT versus Florida. But you did see something from him that was very impressive. He got better. He got better as the season moved on, right? There were some other guys that were ahead of him, and he leapfrogged him in the depth chart. Okay, so the truth is much as I like Harold Perkins, obviously athletically he's on a different stratosphere as a guy like Devon Keys. Keys was fine, right? Now, if Harold Perkins can do some of the things that Keys was able to do, then obviously he gives us way more upside, and he's going to be an older player. But for me, I just don't know if at the SEC level, he is an every down player. Now, that doesn't mean he isn't great. There are plenty of LSU greats that have been very effective as non-every down players. All right. I just happen to be friends with one of them, and I talked to him over the weekend, and his name is Ron Brooks. It was Ron Brooks on the 2011 LSU defense that had not one but 2 pick sixes. All right. That's a good trivia question for you guys. He was so big. He was so big for that defense. And you could think of a lot of different players who were huge sub-package players before they became every down players. So you can still be effective doing that, right? Obviously, Harold Perkins' true freshman season, as the season moved on, he started being an every down player, but it was also kind of this exotic sub-package kind of thing. It's okay as a college football player or just a football player as a whole to be kind of a gadget, non-every down player. Think of a guy like Taysom Hill. Think of a guy like Darren Sproles offensively. And there are plenty of defensive guys that you can mention in that same breath. So, look, it's okay to be open about what Harold Perkins is and what he isn't. Is he good in coverage? Yeah, occasionally he is. But there are times where he had some lapses. Is he a good run stuffer? That has been proven to not be his strength. So, look, I'm perfectly fine with doing the star experiment again. It's kind of the role he played at the end of the Matt House tenure as well. I just don't know if it's going to work. And what my fear is that LSU is just going to try and make something happen that might not be there. It might not be in the cards for Harold Perkins to be an every down defensive player. And it's okay. It's okay to have those conversations. There's nothing in written in law that he needs to be that. Okay. And look, I understand you can get blowback for that, but it's fine to just discuss that publicly. One change I would make with Harold Perkins, though, and this would be obviously a pretty big pill to swallow. I don't think LSU is going to do this, but I am fine with him wearing the jersey number 7, but I would change it back to 4, right? 7 just has so much pressure attached to it. And, when you wear number 7, it feels like you have to live up to something, right? And what I think can happen, and you guys know, I really do believe a jersey number can change how a player plays. In particular, in this instance where it really is a dignified number. It's one of the most coveted numbers at any team. Okay? The truth is, I would highly recommend him switch back to 4. Now, there's some issues with that. Obviously, Montour Delane wore number 4 at Virginia Tech. Have they already promised him number 4 and Perk keeps number 7? I don't know. But whatever the case may be, I'm glad he's coming back. And another thing that's kind of interesting is that he has 2 years of eligibility remaining. So I'm pretty pumped up about that as well. I think this will be his final year of college ball, but we'll see what happens there. Okay. Was out of Joseph, Jared. Jared actually got something pretty big from me not too long ago. And there you go. Nuss is holding us back. Big arm that's hard to catch, one-dimensional. I'd like you to go a little bit deeper. Pause. That is something that has never been said to me. I'm kidding. It has been said to me plenty of times. We continue. But I would like for you to expound on that. Okay, because we did on Patreon just drop a huge Garrett Nussmeier film study. Huge. It's not even that long. Pause. Okay. Now, Next thing, I want to also discuss some of the comments made over the weekend regarding the LSU women's basketball team. I felt like we were pretty civil. I still think this team could make a big run. We talked about the end of SEC regular season schedule. The only thing I really care about, I hope we don't make a run in the SEC tournament, because I do think that tires you out. And we don't have a deep team. Okay. But I kept seeing, a lot of people on Twitter, social media, just kind of overreacting to the non-existent overreactors. There's nobody out there that thinks Kim Mulkey should be let go or anything like that. But what's very important is you do see some trends that have happened to the LSU women's basketball team. So I am hoping that those trends get bucked. And I think the biggest thing, it doesn't matter how this gets done, we need other players to step up. Okay, we really, 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 really do. Outside of our big three, of course, Williams, who's taken her game to another level, which isn't a shock to anyone, Flage and Morrow, who have delivered like we expected them to, if not more than what we expected them to. We just need other players to step up, and I think there's a few things we can do to help aid that. Okay. Another thing, there was a Shea Dixon report regarding Matt McMahon getting a vote of confidence going into next season. And it is indeed true that we don't have the deepest resources devoted to Matt McMahon. And obviously, our practice facility is pretty top notch. I really do mean that. I've been in there. It is pretty dope. But, the PMAC isn't, the same as Rupp or Bud Walton or Tennessee's Arena, the Summit. Obviously, that's okay. Alec Box went through major upgrades. But the thing is, this was brought up about the PMAC recently. This also hosts our gym meets and our gymnastics program. Their facility had major upgrades in the past decade. We could get into a deeper debate about what should we do with the PMAC, how's that new construction project going? It's whatever. But I do want to talk about the Matt McMahon report. Is it true that our team does not have as many good players as many teams as we play? Yes. This is the second consecutive year that we've lost to Jalen. All right. In the modern game, you need Jalen's to succeed in basketball. You just do. All right. Jalen Reed out for the season. Jalen Cook was in and out of the lineup. Those are two big pieces, right? And Cook obviously was last year. But, since then, this team has just gotten throttled. Now, we do give Matt McMahon a lot of credit. The Oklahoma win, and obviously put some confidence into our program. I like Matt McMahon a lot. And I think one thing, because there's quite a few of you that are frustrated that there is this vote of confidence for Matt McMahon coming back next year. Is that locked? Is that set in stone? I don't know. All right. But I have heard the same thing. Okay. That there is really good support for Matt McMahon to come back. And it's also important to note that in the NIL era, when it comes to firing any coach, a lot of the big discussion points regarding a coach who might not be up to snuff is that if we fire this guy and have to pay him the buyout, that buyout money could go to better players, which in turn would make that coach look a lot better than he actually is. Okay. But I do agree, Matt McMahon needs more talent. The issue I have, though, is when you've watched his teams over the years, and Hal is a season ticket holder. I think he's listening in the background. Jared watches quite a bit of LSU basketball, and he says he's got to get some players. They do go on long stretches, and I mean very, very, very long stretches where they just go cold. And you look at last year's team, I don't think that team was just god-awful. You would have games where they would be getting blown out, and then they only lose by 3. Or they're blowing someone out, and the other team comes back. And I understand college basketball is very much a game of runs, and things go back and forth like that. Well, I don't think it's been as bad as it was last year as it is this year, but you do see some of that, okay? And look, if I was LSU, if I wanted to really bring men's basketball back, I do think there would be quite a few coaches that would be interested in joining the SEC. Now, once again, if they were to come in, you'd have to buy out Matt McMahon and then pay all the coaches and their assistants. And basketball is a very player-oriented sport where you really do need the players. I'd make the call to go get Rick Pitino. All right, that is my dream hire. I think Rick Pitino is the most talented college or any level. Boys club, JUCO, middle school, high school, college, NBA. Rick Pitino is the best college basketball coach ever. And I understand he is really old, but I don't give a damn. We've had back-to-back presidents that are 80. Age is just a number. Give me Ricky P. Look, to survive in this SEC, you got to have yourself a big-time coach. You just do. You just do. This conference is brutal when it comes to coaches. Rick Barnes is very freaking good. The most accomplished coach, who most would say is the best coach if you factor in all the things he's done in his career, has had a terrible year in John Calipari. Nate Oates is probably currently the best coach in the conference. Bruce Pearl, Chris Beard. And my question to you, even though I am fine with running it back with Matt McMahon, is do you believe that he can go back and forth with these big dogs? Even though he made an administrative error, Dennis Gates looks to be pretty decent at Missouri. He had one extremely good year and then got knocked out by Princeton. This past year, he sucked. But this year, Missouri's a power. Vanderbilt went out there and got themselves a coach. Dude's pretty good. Okay? So I think LSU is probably a little bit more of a desirable job than we would like to think. But I don't know. I really, really, really don't know. So let me know what you guys think about Matt McMahon. I will be the first to tell you I do not watch as much full LSU men's basketball games. I do want to, comment on one thing. Trey Green did leave the basketball team for a hiatus, if you will. I don't think he's going to come back. And my response to that is good. Okay? I understand there would be some old school mindsets of finish what you started. But honestly, how many football, basketball success stories can you name where both players were very good at both? Okay. Charlie Ward should be the first that everybody mentions. Okay. And then, of course, you have Julius Peppers. But how good was he actually at basketball? I mean, he was okay. But he's obviously one of the best football players to ever live. go to Chance. How about Jay Wright? I mean, honestly, you never really know who could say yes to this. He would need a lot of money and a lot of resources. I just don't think he wants to do the NIL thing. I just don't. I also think Villanova to LSU might be a little two-step downish. Now, I'm going to give you one name, okay? One name that I think would be very, very, very sexy, and I think it would kind of go in line with the idea that we don't have as much NIL as other schools. And that name is coming up right after this.
Let's go!
On a journey together with Zion Imaging, I want you to see this experience up close. And me as a wedding and event DJ, I watched how everybody had so much fun with Zion Imaging. And a big reason for their success is the team. Yes, Jaron Thomas and his family started this off as a passion project, and they have one simple goal in mind: taking your event to the next level. Whether it's a wedding, reunion, quinceañera, school, or corporate event, Zion Imaging is all about family-friendly fun. And I gotta show you on this tour the high-level technology that quickly sends your video session to your phone, whether it's iPhone or Android. Yes, it's the Zion Imaging 360 spin booth experience, serving North Texas, North Louisiana, South Arkansas, Orlando, and more. Give us a call, 318-469-4265. Check us out on Facebook or book us at Zion Imaging, XYANimaging.com. Are you a die-hard LSU fan, and would you like to understand the complex game of football better? Well, sign up today for our PHL Patreon. This is his second touchdown. Counter G, why you're pulling the guard. We dive deep on recruiting and the transfer portal at a level that you have never seen before. Film breakdowns from so many different angles, and my personal favorites, oh yeah, the analytics, baby. I like to get nerdy. We take a look at cutting-edge statistics that help all of us understand LSU football even better. And guess what? Every new sign-up gets a Joe Burrow card in the mail for free. But we got to save the best for last. Our private Discord community of LSU fans from around the globe. Sign up today. Patreon.com/LSU football and put your name on our wall of patrons. Special thanks to everybody who's on here. Let's freaking go. All righty. Who can name this Grammy Award-winning artist? Let me know in the comments section right now. I am a big fan of this guy because I am a big Lady Gaga fan, and their duets at Grammys and different performances was a thing of beauty, okay? And there we go. Rob is correct. He also shares the name of the coach that I would go after. Tony freaking Bennett. Now, two things about Tony. All right. Two things. The first, he obviously was tired of all the recruiting and all of that. But you have to get over the NCAA tournament failures. And there's very few that have flopped on their face worse than Tony Bennett in the NCAA tournaments. Very few. But he does have a national championship to his name, which is something we have not won in quite some time in men's basketball. If ever. We can get into a debate about that, but still. Another thing you had to get over at Tony Bennett is he plays a really boring style of basketball. It is not a fun watch, okay? But guess what? He does something that the great Al Davis says. Just win, baby. Tony Bennett wins. Okay. Kihei Clark, Kyle Guy, DeAndre Hunter. Who doesn't remember that name? Those teams. Okay. His name slips my mind. There's a player. Ty Jerome. He's with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Okay. Now, would Tony Bennett be interested in coaching in the SEC? Maybe so. Would that excite him to come down to the SEC and coach in what many are considering one of the most loaded conferences when it comes to head coaches? Now, prime ACC is going to be tough with Boeheim and Coach K and Roy Williams. But still, another thing that I like about Tony Bennett is, since the static style of play is so boring, it's a little bit different than, a little bit of the other coaches, and you can win with lesser talent playing that way. And one thing Tony did a really good job of is he would recruit a lot of these 3, 4, and 5-star players that would really buy into a system. Okay? So, look, once again, I'm fine with running it back with Matt McMahon. But if you're a big game hunter, and Scott Woodward's a big game hunter, why not? Go for it. Well, he's not from the South, and he's it's SEC, and recruiting is different. No, recruiting is never going to be the same. I mean, come on, it's just bullcrap. Okay. Guy won an Natty. Bottom line. Now, I will say, his national championship might be the flukiest national championship I have ever seen. I mean, there were so many dipsy doodles, turns, kick balls that went his way. Literally, it was the most miracle national championship run ever. And that's okay. Tony freaking Bennett. Let's do it. Now, obviously, LSU baseball gets another W earlier today. Every other LSU channel is going to lead with baseball from here until the College World Series. I don't sit and watch every pitch of every game, but I will be on Blake Ruffino's show a little bit later. His show starts here in about 20 minutes, and he will have the full breakdown for you. I am really excited about this outfield. When you think LSU baseball, right, you got to think about some of these loaded outfields that they have had, right? So you go back, one of my favorite LSU outfields of all time was the national championship we won with Paul Minieri, okay? I mean, that outfield was freaking stacked. And they had Leon Landry coming off the bench. Who remembers number 16, Ryan Schimpf? I just love saying that name. That is so good. Ryan Schimpf. And the Mikey Matuk. Whew. You know what's funny? I have an interview with Mikey Matuk from Omaha. You can find it somewhere on YouTube. I have not seen him since that interview. And I know he does like some LSU media stuff. The only other time I see Mikey Matuk in the flesh was actually in Vegas. And he went to this Zed concert, and the line was like through the roof. The guy was in the VIP section. I was like, okay, let's go, Mikey. I see LSU getting in here to get some Zed in your life. I'm a big Zed fan. As a DJ myself, that dude is great. But Mikey Matuk, I think, could have played college football. That dude was a beast. I think Chad Jones played a little outfield before, he was a fit pitcher full time. Man, I love that team. My favorite LSU teams, any sport that I've experienced, okay? 2007 LSU football will always be my favorite team. Always. Then 2009 LSU baseball is number 2. Okay. Number 3 would probably be the Angel Reese, Natty, Kim Mulkey team. And then number 4, speaking of LSU basketball, John Brady's Final Four team. Whew. Love that team. But, obviously, that's kind of an asterisk. I would pick all football because I'm so football focused. But, that 09 LSU baseball team, full of great personalities, right? And Paul Maneri himself, Sean Ochinko, Lewis Coleman, DJ LeMahieu. The guy who was quiet but low-key funny on that team was Micah Gibbs, a really good catcher. But if you were to tell me that DJ LeMahieu would have the best pro career on that team, I wouldn't have believed you. I wouldn't have believed you at all. Okay? I think there was a few others. And there's so many players on that team you could talk about. Jared Mitchell obviously deserves a lot of praise. He was the most outstanding player of the whole thing. And then a friend of mine, Anthony Renato. Love me some Anthony Renato. Fellow card collector, Anthony Renato. But this team, Stanfield, got the single digit, rocking Uno. We haven't had a whole lot of Unos because Paul Maneri wore Uno. So it was eaten up by a manager for a very long time. I will say this one thing about college baseball. Even though I don't cover it that closely, number one, I love calling a baseball game as much as any sport when it comes to play-by-play. And my biggest honor over the past year was getting to call a game at Alec Box Stadium on the Nichols broadcast. So, man, really, really, really enjoyed that. And then the second thing is I do, and as a whole, I really do believe this. I think college baseball has a very bright future. I really do think so. As a sport that can grow big time. All right. In American sports, we love postseasons. College baseball has a ridiculously fun postseason. Ridiculously fun. By far my favorite postseason. All right. The second thing, ESPN, still the biggest sports brand on the planet, has a lot of incentives to carry and push college baseball, right? They own basically all the rights to it. Third thing, you have this college tradition. You have Omaha. You have unfreaking believably passionate fans. Obviously, it's still niche and very regional. But, you don't have blowouts. There's so many college football games that are just blowouts. College baseball, postseason, yes, you've had some 26-3 finals like what we did to those stupid Florida Gators. Let's go. But college baseball games are close. They're really close. Nichols beat LSU in Baton Rouge. Yeah, like the team that won it all. Nichols beat LSU. And obviously college baseball, the metal bats, the fun uniforms. One thing I would ban in college baseball are the boring gray uniforms. There are no uniform restrictions in college baseball. Teams could be wearing the same color and it won't matter. Baseball is the only sport where that really does apply. In a team sport, that is. But wear any color you want. Just don't wear gray. It's boring. It's a bad look. But I'm telling you, man, the last thing I love about college baseball is the rivalries do run deep. Okay, you do have some legitimate coaches and programs that hate each other guts. All right, they really, really, really do. Okay, I'm really freaking excited about the future of college baseball and for these players. Scholarship limits are about to go up, so you might have more imbalance, but still, the nature of baseball is still going to force close games. It still is. Okay. Now, the reason why I said that is that I am so anti-expansion. I hate expansion. Scarcity makes things better in life. All right. My favorite place on the planet Earth is London. It's where I got engaged. I just love English culture. I really do. But if I went every year, I probably wouldn't like it as much. So that one time I went, it's a scarce trip that I made. Or when you go see your favorite band, obviously some of you psychos will go see Garth Brooks 50 times, and that's fine. But it's scarce. Expansion ruins scarcity. So college baseball shouldn't expand. But we do get to the final topic. Now, once again, in the next 5 to 10 minutes, we'll answer as many questions as we possibly can. If you do super chat, we'll keep it going. I need to do a better job of pushing the super chats. I don't think we've had one up to this point. That's all good. Don't forget to sign up for the PHL Patreon. You get your first month free if you sign up during a live stream, and you get entered into the Jamar Chase drawing. Okay. I'm going to do the Mick. Thumbs up here. College basketball is about to piss me off. They're expanding the NCAA tournament. And if they got to expand the men's tournament, guess what they got to do to the women's tournament? Expand that as well. Don't do it. Don't do it. It sucks. It really just craps on the regular season as a whole. Jared, thank you for the super. Appreciate it. Expansion sucks. Don't expand. Please don't expand. Don't do it. But y'all, we got to talk about college football expansion. I won't get into all the nitty gritty. But the SEC and Big Ten want their automatic bids. They want expansion. They want to be in the college football playoff. And I've heard it all. I've heard all the points why this is a good thing. Okay? Why it's a good thing. Because if these bigger brands join the Big Ten, so you have Oregon and you have USC joining the Big Ten, you have UCLA, and then obviously in the SEC, you have Texas, you have Oklahoma. I have said this for forever. For forever. North Carolina will be in the SEC. That's who I think the first team, next school that will join the SEC. That's who I think it'll be. Y'all. Today, I did a Shedeur Sanders film study for my NFL channel, and I dove deep into the Big 12. All right. Obviously, I don't do a whole lot of Big 12 content. I mostly do SEC, mostly do NFL. And obviously, my main focus, of course, is my own LSU Tigers. Y'all, the Big 12 was ass. It was straight dookie water. All right. They got exposed worse than Justin Tucker at a parlor. It was so bad watching Big 12 football. And I understand Arizona State made a run. But goodness gracious, this is a terrible, terrible, terrible conference last year. It was bad. Man, the ACC comes into the college football playoff. They get spanked. They get freaking spanked. But we had to shoehorn SMU in there because they lost the conference tournament and we didn't want them to whatever. Clemson got in. They at least showed some fight. They might beat us next year. Who knows? But y'all, we can't just admit that SEC players are better because they are. And I'll admit that here. Okay. I'll admit that here. But I want you to look at me right now. We do not need this sport to become an SEC Big Ten invitational. All right. We do not need that to happen. And the main reason we don't need this to happen is because the thing that makes college football great is not the playoff. It has never been the playoff. A lot of you old schoolers in here that grew up on college football, I'm talking to Mick, I'm talking to Chance, I'm talking to Jared, obviously, Jonathan, Blanche. You guys grew up on college football not having a national championship game really at all. The AP deciding it. Guess what? You still freaking love the sport. That's not what college football is built on. It's a stupid thing to think that we ever have a fully legitimate national championship in a sport with over 100 teams. Yeah, there are years where it's clear cut who the best team was, 2019 LSU, 2020 Alabama, but there are few and far between. The idea that you're ever going to have a perfect playoff is stupid. Okay? The reason why you don't want SEC and Big Ten, I guess you could say automatic bids, and there would be more SEC and Big Ten teams getting into the big dance, is that your games will become diluted. All right? The best team that I watched in college football this season were the Ole Miss Rebels. They were the best team. But guess what happened? They did not make this college football playoff because they choked. They choked. They lost to Kentucky. They lost to us. They lost to Florida. They probably should not have lost any of those three games, but they lost all three of them. Now, they beat everybody else by double digits, right? They were number 2 in yard per play margin. A lot of the advanced analytics actually back up what I saw on film and what I saw with those analytics as well. But in an expanded field, they're going to get in. In a 16-team field, they're going to get in. All right? It's already bad enough that we had a national championship game where Ohio State comfortably got in and they lost their rivalry game versus Michigan. And Notre Dame was able to make it losing to Northern Illinois. Okay? It is a problem. Expansion should be something you should push hard against. And I've always said this. I love the 14 college football playoff. I think 6 was a perfect number. I was perfectly fine with 12. But what's going to happen is with expansion, and I've not read up on this like as closely as I probably should have, but with expansion, part of why the college football playoff expansion is coming along is the SEC, or I say the SEC, ESPN wants a 9th conference game in the SEC for a lot of different reasons, okay? Y'all, I could tell you a million times over. If SMU played Ole Miss last season, Ole Miss would beat them by double digits like they did everybody else, okay? But that's not what happened on the actual fields. So even though I would sit here and admit to you that after watching a lot of Big 12 football today, that those teams really weren't that good. And after watching a lot of ACC football recently, I'll say, because I'm starting my Cam Ward evaluation on Power Hour NFL, those teams weren't that good. I'm glad Miami didn't get in. They choked versus Syracuse. Okay? They had a bunch of ridiculously lucky calls that went their way. It sucks. It sucks what they're doing to the sport, and I'll be honest, it's pissing me off. Okay? Will I ever leave college football? No, because I love it. I love it. But y'all, you are not a suit. You do not have gray hair and work for, a P4 university. The people that are making money off of this is actually fewer than you would probably like to think. It sucks. It really, really, really sucks. Once again, I was fine with 12. The thing that I liked the most about 12 in this first year is that there were still very good teams that were out. Alabama, even though Jalen Milroe became basically unplayable at the end, they were still a very good team. Ole Miss was a very good team that was left out of the field. Miami had a ridiculously good offense. They were out of the field. You expand to 14, some of those teams get in. They do. And the thing I like about it is that third loss was massive for a lot of teams. So you get to that point where 2 losses was kind of like the cutoff. It's a problem. So to me, eye test. Kentucky was, Kentucky. Ole Miss was the best team. They didn't get in. Why didn't they get in? They shat the bed. They're given many of opportunities. Okay? There you go. Y'all going to be the first to know this. I just got a text. I'm actually opening for one of my favorite, or actually a friend of mine that's been a very successful country musician. Ink's not dried yet on everything, so I'm pretty excited about that. I do not play country. I'm just a DJ. So I'm really pumped up about that. You're the first. I actually just got the message. So there you go. I'm not Steve Aoki or DJ Jazzy Jeff or Manny Fresh or anyone like that. Those are completely different level guys. I just get to do cool things every now and then. So I'm pumped up about that. It's going to be crazy. I'm thinking about bringing a camera guy, I think, so you can see how the sausage is made. There you go. Also, thanks to everyone that tuned in last night. It was my final college play-by-play game of the year. For now, I have a feeling I'm going to get a chance to call some postseason game. I love calling college basketball. College basketball might be the funnest. Baseball is up there, though. Baseball is a fun sport to call. Let's go to Bo Knows. Just go 16. Oh, okay. Bo Knows getting sexy here. Put the championship game the same weekend as the Super Bowl. All right. I like the ambition. I really do. Okay. But I'll quickly strike that down. The NFL is so big. They don't need anybody else. And the NFL is already competing with college football for those college football playoff Saturdays. So it's not really a symbiotic relationship outside of the NFL draft relationship that they have with the 3-year minimum thing. Okay. The second thing is that would be a logistical nightmare. It's not like college basketball where it's just not as big. Like, if you were to ever go, and some of you were in New Orleans, Super Bowl week is as crazy as the game. Literally, the Friday and Saturday before the Super Bowl, that Saturday is actually when the most famous people are all in one city. Okay. College football would just get drowned out by all of that. But It would be fun as hell. Like, I'll be honest, it would be fun as hell. Okay. Not the same weekend, but the same venue. And then that goes to another issue. Okay. So I'd say next year, the same venue, the game would be played in Santa Clara. All right. So it would be played at Levi Stadium where the 49ers play. That's not a college football venue. Now, would it be a fun setting? Sure. Once again, not a great venue for a natty because of the logistics. Maybe the open weekend before. But do you really want to compete with the Pro Bowl? I'm kidding. Here's the problem with that. Senior Bowl is that weekend. East and West Shrine game. All right. So you would have players, kind of in a rock and a hard place. So once again, those are not be-all, end-alls. But it's still an elongated period of time. Okay. So I don't know. I don't know. It's not that much longer than that. I think about it from the national championship game to this, and it is just two teams, but I don't know. So there you go. Now, once again, big thanks to our top super chatter, Mr. Jared. Thank you so much. Comment below any video ideas. I think a lot of you want more transfer portal breakdowns. It's been the thing I've been requested to do the most. Currently putting together a Patrick Payton one. You see he's a thumbnail image. So there you go. I'm sorry about the audio thing. I swear. I was looking at my levels the whole time. I look at it immediately. I don't know why it wasn't playing. And then magically it started going on. So my apologies on that. It is Power Out LSU. Boom. Tonight we are doing lemon pepper chicken wings. Let's go. Huh?